Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the Social Circus, where every week we dive into a variety of topics covering social media, mindset, and how to run your business. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, my lovely listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Social Circus. I am your host, Sarah Thompson, and each and every week I drop in with episodes either by myself or with a guest. Now, today is a solo episode. And I've titled this episode The Silence Between Sales because we need to understand what do we do when things aren't busy in our business. So if you are feeling the squeeze right now, I want to talk a little bit about that and what does that look and feel like. So at the time of recording, it is April 2025, and it is a really, really tricky time in business. If your business is quiet right now, so if it's whispering instead of roaring, I love that analogy. What do we do and how do we work through that? But I want to just start by saying that I've been in business 14 years, and I would say that this year feels particularly difficult, more difficult than the COVID years, more difficult than last year, which everyone thought was going to be a better year because it was post-COVID and it was a really turbulent year. In 2025, we have had the perfect storm of things happening on a macro level. So globally, we have Donald Trump as the president of the USA. Whether you love him or hate him, he's causing a great deal of instability globally across a number of factors, including economic factors. And what instability does is it stops people spending their money. So we hang on to our money in times of uncertainty and we wait and see and ride out the storm. I sincerely hope the storm isn't the next 4 years while he is the president. So we have that happening. On top of that, we have a lot of unrest globally. We have a lot of uncertainty in terms of trade relations. And then we have people worrying about things like changes to inflation, the cost of living. Here in Australia, we also have layered upon that a federal looming election. So we're going to the polls next month, so in May 2025. And that means that people sit on their hands and wait and see. So if you're in a business and wondering why people aren't spending their money, please know that these global macro factors are having a huge impact on how people are spending their money. It has an impact on consumer spending, and it also has an impact on what's called consumer confidence. And confidence means, do I feel like I should go out and buy a brand new car right now when things are not going well? And the confidence is quite low. So these indexes tell us that right now is a really tough time to be in business. And I don't want to make excuses for anyone's business on how it's performing, but I wanted to mention those because if you go on social media right now, it looks very different to what the reality of running a business looks like. So if you go onto social media, there are people telling you right now that you can have a 7-figure business or have a 6-figure month or make 10K in 10 days. And all of these really high aspirational, particularly dollar value sales figures in your business. And you could be sitting there right now going, I just really like to have stable, consistent $2,000 months, right? That might be your goal in your business. And you look at all of those things and go, I can't even get to $2,000 consistently. How are these people talking about having 6-figure months? It feels so beyond your reach right now. And what I do want to say is, a lot of businesses that you see on social media that are talking about huge successes that they have on their business come on the back of years of growth and consistency, okay? They haven't just popped up overnight. So they're like, look at me, my business does 400K a month. Those businesses have been working really hard on their business model for many, many years. Very few of them have popped up and are going gung-ho right now as a new business. So I want to just say, if you go on social media and feel like everyone is killing it except for you, please know that many of the successes you are seeing are on the back of a really strong and long foundation of being an entrepreneur. So I want to just say that because if you are new in business or have only been in business a few years, it can feel really hard because particularly if you entered a business just pre or during COVID, that's some really turbulent times. And the last couple of years have been really, really difficult. And I know for myself, from my experience, I would say the last couple of years have been some of the hardest that I have seen for myself and for my clients. So I want to really normalize that if your business isn't killing it right now, that is completely normal. I coach so many businesses and I've had a really tough few weeks of coaching. One of the days I had 5 for 5 clients cry in their coaching sessions because business is so incredibly hard. And one of the other things that I'm seeing is that we're doing the things that we've always done and they're no longer working. So last week I had a couple of clients come to me who've had what could only be phrased as failed launches. And I don't use the word failure lightly. Fail because they failed to attract anyone into their launches. So if they have been running them previously and they've worked really, really well, what was working previously is no longer working. And this can be really destabilizing if you kind of think you know what you're doing in business and suddenly what you know has changed. And that's because on top of all those macro pressures we're having, which are impacting consumer spending and consumer confidence, we have going on for us in business other factors that are having a huge impact. One of which is AI, and that is radically changing how people want to learn, how they do business, and how they are approaching components of their business. And so that's kind of like a bit like all bets are off. Like what we knew worked is no longer working and things are changing. Now, in my industry in digital marketing, it would be fair to say that things change constantly and it's an onerous task to keep up. But if you've been in a business where things are fairly stable and you have a good handle on how you do business, this can be really unsettling because suddenly you're like, well, this worked before. Why is it no longer working? So if you're in a space right now where your business is tough, where things that you were doing previously are no longer working, and you jump on social media and feel like everyone is going gangbusters except for you, then in today's episode, I'm going to really talk about if you're in a space where things are just quiet, they're just not going as they would like to, then this episode is going to be like a big warm cuppa and a hug coming right at you because I want to talk about that. And I really want to talk about it in a way where we normalize it, where we don't have to go, I'm not doing well, but this person on social media is absolutely killing it and they're selling something that's going to teach me how to do the same. I want you to say, please approach this with caution because often these businesses that are doing really well are backed by longevity and consistency. Okay. So you're not going to be able to buy a course and turn your business around because someone has given you a promise of some magic beans. Okay. So please keep in mind that is not your answer. Okay. So I want to just say that businesses have seasons, just like economies have seasons, just like politicians have seasons. So think about where you're at right now and how does it feel and are you happy with that? And obviously this is a one-sided conversation, so you have to think about that. And I want to just kind of rephrase it because so much of running a business is about mindset. So I want you to think about, is your business failing or are you flowing? Are you moving into different spaces? Because being quiet doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It can mean that you're growing beneath the surface. So I want you to ask yourself right now, what is the story that you are telling yourself about doing business right now? Are you panicking? Are you spiraling? Or are you trying to reframe this and see it as the gift of space? And I want to talk a little bit about how our mindset plays a big role during slower times. So today I popped in to see a client and we were talking about how we first connected. And during COVID, business was incredibly tough. My business was super quiet and I had lots of space. And so I used that gift of space to turn a lot of my face-to-face training into online courses. I also saw so many of my clients really, really struggling. And I thought, well, I can't sell them anything because nobody's spending money. And so what I did was I ran a whole bunch of free challenges online to help people show up, to help them grow their business. And she was talking to me today and I'd forgotten about this, about how those challenges helped her to understand social media, helped her to show up and sort of stay the course. And now she has her business is booming. But at the time that was really hard. So I want you to ask yourself, how are you feeling about your business right now? What's your mindset and what does it feel like? And are you feeling like every day you're waking up feeling panicked and anxious, or are you thinking about, okay, things are slower right now than what I would like them to be, and how can I assess what it is that I am doing? So when we're in this time and phase, the first thing I want to say is it's really normal to want to hit that panic button. It's really normal to feel like something has to change. I had to kind of talk a couple of people last week who I coached with kind of off the box of like, maybe I should just close my business. Maybe that's easier. And maybe now is the time to kind of look at how can you supplement your income. Maybe you could get some part-time work or something that would take the pressure off your business in terms of financials, okay? Because when you're under a lot of pressure, it's very hard to see the trees from the woods in terms of what is my next good step. When we're under pressure, we're just like, I just need to do something. And we often react and don't make positive steps in the right direction. So instead of hustling right now, I really loathe that word. It makes me feel all anxious and like I'm never doing enough because that's how it kind of makes me feel on the inside hustling. I want you to reframe what's going on right now and think about how could I nurture myself and my business right now when things are quiet. So what could you do in your business that would feel nourishing? It's really different language to hustling. So here's some ideas that you might want to approach and think about. How can I do things differently? So when was the last time you looked at your website and reviewed the content and the copy on it? Because that always sits in a to-do list that we honestly often never get to. You think, how can I, shake things up? How can I create some new energy and bring it into my business? And looking at your website and reassessing that is a great thing to do. I actually revisited my website copy over the Christmas break. And it's really interesting how we change and grow. And I remember I had a copywriter help me with that copy about 4 years ago, and I loved it. And it spoke into my clients so well. And I've looked at it many times over the last 12 months and gone, that doesn't speak into what I do anymore. So revisiting things like that can actually be a really important task because it makes you look and go, what is it that I do? How do I serve my clients or my customers? And does my website reflect that? And when you kind of sit in that space of this is what I do, it really gets you reconnected with your kind of why and your purpose underneath that. So think about that. Another really good task that you can do is to batch some content. Now, I would say almost without exception, every single client that I speak to struggles with creating content consistently on social media. So if you have the gift of time and space, now is the perfect time for you to revisit your social media. Maybe you can jump into Canva and spend a whole bunch of time setting up some brand templates, batching out some content. Things like testimonials are really good evergreen content that you can do. Allow yourself to get in front of things and give yourself that gift of space where you can actually create things without feeling like you're under pressure every single day to create content. So batching content is a really great way to kind of use that gift of time and space well in your business. The other thing that you could look at is what freebies have you got in your business to attract new people in? And does that have a funnel behind it? So by freebies, I mean things like lead magnets and low ticket offers. So when was the last time you updated and refreshed this? When was the last time you created a new one? And the final question is, how often do you share that with your social media? Okay, so it should be 2 to 3 times a week. You should be doing list building on your social media. So that is a really nice task that, again, sits on that one-day to-do list along with your website refresh. So if you're looking for something to do, this is a really great thing to do because it's really positive. You can go into your social media and ask people, what are you struggling with right now in your space? So for me, it would be digital marketing. And then think about what could you create that would help people with that. So this leads me into my next comment, which would be, when was the last time you updated your offers? Because what we're seeing at the moment is what worked 12 months ago isn't working now. And so that means you might have to reassess, well, how do I sell what it is that I know? Do I need to create a low ticket entry point for customers to begin their journey in my business? Do I have no freebies? Do I not have discovery calls so that people can try me out? I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you looked at the offers in your business and where do people come into your business, i.e. the entry point, and how do they scale through it? Or this is sometimes called the customer journey or your customer ascension model. If you're not familiar with this, remember you can use tools like AI to say, here's everything I sell in my business. Here's the price points. What would a typical customer journey look like or a customer ascension look like? So how do they move through your business? And ask yourself, where are the blind spots? Maybe you have loads of high ticket offers and there's no way people can try you out at a low cost to taste your services. And this can be really hard in tough economic times because people are like, I'd love to go and coach with Sarah and drop 10K on coaching with her, but what if she's rubbish? I can't even sample her out to see if I like her. So think about, how do people move into your business? What offers do you currently have? Now, this is one of my favorites, and anyone who's on my mailing list knows I love sending emails. It is an important marketing tool, but I want you to think about When was the last time you emailed your list? And if you're going to send an email to your list and you don't want to sell, which is totally fine, why not send a check-in email and say, hey, things are pretty tough right now, or things are quite uncertain. How are you going? Why not send me a DM on Insta, or ask them and invite them to check in with you and to connect with you. This is a really nice way to kind of build that connection. So flowing on from that, the other thing I want you to think about in your business when it's quiet is to focus in on connections and how do we build those relationships. So instead of just chasing sales with people, send messages to connect with people. So in the last couple of weeks, I've had 2 discovery calls that were simply on the back of me sending a message to people saying, hey, how's it going? I've seen you've just done a launch. How did it go? It looked amazing. And the response I got from both of them, it went terribly. And so then I had lovely DM chats with people. I love sending voice messages. It's very natural for me to do that. And it started some conversations and I ended up having some discovery calls and working with these ladies. So it was really nice to do that. But I wasn't chasing that. I was actually just checking in with people because I think it's really nice. I love it when people check in with me because I often, like many people might work in isolation and not have someone to bounce things off. So why not do that? Reach out and chase that connection, not the conversion. And the other thing you can do when times are quiet, this is such a simple one and it's so overlooked, is when was the last time you reached out to past clients? So you can do this in many different ways. You can send an email and say, hey, how's it going? You can send a DM, or you can start to be really visible on their socials. And this again is a time task. And if you're like, well, I worked loads with that person and I wonder what's going on, you can check out their socials and send them a message going, hey, I saw you had a new offer. I saw you had this. It looks awesome. How's it all going? Check in with people. So those are some really active tasks that you can do. But I want to kind of wrap up today by saying, why not allow that quietness to create some clarity in your business? So we are all so incredibly busy and we love that hustle and we create that constant go, 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 go. And when you run a business, it is very easy to move from one task to the other and keep that momentum and end up in burnout very, very quickly. So I want you to try and find that quiet and kind of step away from the scroll, because scrolling is super bad for our mental health. It is very bad when things are quiet in your business because all you will see is people killing it and it will reaffirm what a dud you are, and nobody needs that. So I want you to think about this quiet space that you might have to get still and to listen and to lean into what feels really good. And I love quiet space and I love stepping away from my business because as soon as I do that, the ideas start brimming. So if I'm sitting in the space of like, things are really quiet and what am I going to do? I need to earn money and I'm hustling and I'm grinding. I become in the energy of like desperation and I send out that energy with things that I do. And when I'm quiet, I sit and think to myself, gosh, I ran this and it was so good and people got so much value from it. And energetically, it felt great. And I felt like that was what I want to do. Why don't I do that again? And suddenly I get clarity on how I'm going to move forward. So if you are feeling all those things right now, put your phone down. Obviously, keep listening to me. Put your phone down, particularly if you love doom scrolling. That stuff is bad for you, especially when it's quiet. And I want you to step away and try things like going for a walk, doing some meditations, sitting in quiet space. One of my habits, which I think I've talked about over the summer, was that I've kind of stepped away from my phone, stepped away from doing, and I spend about half an hour to an hour every evening sitting in a hammock in our back garden, mostly watching my cat, who is an inside cat. She's only allowed outside on a harness, watching her play in our back garden. It's very relaxing, very meditative, very zen, but it also allows my mind to just stop that endless thinking and just really kind of chill. And I found that that's been really, really helpful in removing that overwhelm, removing any anxiety I have around how's my business going. And it allows the new ideas to flow in, because if your brain is absolutely overloaded and stuffed to brimming with social scrolling, there is no space for the magic spark to happen. There is no space for the creative ideas to flow in. All there's space for is anxiety and hustle and grind. And I want you to think about, how can you create this space? The simplest way is to go for a walk. And go for a walk, not with your earbuds in or not listening to music, or just go and be still and be quiet in nature and see to yourself like, gosh, things are hard right now. What would I like to be doing? If I had all the money in the world, what would I do in my business right now? And ask yourself those kind of like big questions of like, what do I love doing? How can I bring that back to my business and find that joy and spark and energy? And ask yourself, what has worked in the past? Can I try and run that again? Is that something I did and I just thought, oh yeah, it's done, and didn't revisit it? So ask yourself those kind of questions. And the last thing I want you to think about is this quiet a moment to kind of celebrate the pause? And I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but sometimes the universe is just giving you space to breathe before you take your next big step. And are you in that space right now? And it's really hard to tell. And the only way we can really lean into those feels is to just, quieten our mind, quiet that scarcity mindset that we might have, quiet that need to hustle and grind and do, and sit in it and go, what's next? Am I about to have a big breakthrough? Are things about to happen and get momentum in my business? The only way you're going to find that out is you actually stop and sort of lean into some of that. So I'm going to give you a little takeaway to finish up today. And it's a really cute quote that I read online. And I really liked it because I felt like it was meant to say it. It says, "The quiet times aren't empty, they're fertile. And what you plant now will bloom later." Okay. So I hope that you have got some value from today's episode. I hope you feel sort of reassured that you're not alone in this. If it's really hard, I hope you felt reassured that lots of other businesses are doing it hard right now. And maybe you're going to take some action on some of the tips that I've shared today. Wherever you are right now, if you would love to have a little chat, feel free to send me a DM on Insta. I love sending messages and having little chats, hearing how you're going and how I might be able to help you in your business. But for now, just know that you're not alone and you're not the only one. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you tune in every single Wednesday with a new episode of The Social Circus. And I hope you find some quiet and space in your week ahead. Thanks so much for tuning in to The Social Circus. As your host, Sarah Thompson, I am thrilled that you've chosen to spend your time hanging out with me. I would be so grateful if you could spare an extra moment to go and leave me a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you even felt more excited, you could share my podcast with your friends who you think would get great value from it. Thanks so much again for tuning in.